This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. October 10th is World Mental Health Day, and this year we are saying thank you to therapists. BetterHelp therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. That's millions of stories and millions of journeys. Behind each one of them is a therapist who showed up, listened, and helped someone take that next step forward. Moments in therapy, like asking the right questions, having a safe place to get emotional or cry, or small wins, they can change lives. This World Mental Health Day, BetterHelp is honoring those connections and the therapists who make them possible while showing how easy it is to get guidance from a licensed therapist online with BetterHelp. I've been doing therapy for over 2 years and I couldn't recommend it enough. It's helped me so much with relationships with my friends, families, even myself. It's helped me understand myself better, and it's just made for such a better life. It really has. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for live sessions based on over 1.7 million client reviews. This World Mental Health Day, we are collaborating with those therapists who have helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off of their first month at BetterHelp.com/PFF. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PFF. The Chiefs win this game, defend home field against the Detroit Lions, another one of the best teams in the NFL, a team that was really running hot going into this game by a score of 30-17. So let's take a look at the top 5 graded players that we had for the Kansas City Chiefs as the victors in this one. Look at this. Travis Kelce back at the top of the list. An 86.6. Wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster, an 81.2. Safety Chamari Connor with a 78.6 at number 3. Number 4 on the list, wide receiver Marquise Brown, a 76.4. Safety Brian Cook rounds things out with a 75.4. And then Patrick Mahomes, as we always give you guys the top 5, and then the quarterback as well. Mahomes had a 72.8 overall grade in this one. On Detroit's side of things, their tight end is at the top of the list in Sam Laporta. He had an elite 90.4 grade, including that incredible touchdown that we saw in the back of the end zone. Offensive guard Christian Mahogany right behind him at number 2 with an 85.1. Wide receiver Jamison Williams, an 84.0. Offensive tackle Penei Sewell, a 78.3. And then cornerback Amik Robertson, a 69.3. Jared Goff in this game, an 80.6. He played well. It just wasn't enough, I think, from a team game as a whole. I don't want to say that it was, like Jared Goff or really anybody. There wasn't a one singular reason. I thought these were two very evenly matched teams going up against each other. But Dalton, what was your stat that told the story for the Chiefs coming away with the victory?
I actually, something struck me that the boss himself, Chris Collinsworth, said in about the last 5 minutes of this game when he was talking about how it all kind of went down for the Lions. He said they didn't hold serve. And I think that makes a ton of sense when you consider the Lions, especially against this Kansas City team, and especially with the way their secondary was so beat up, especially at cornerback. They needed, I think about the first drive, they needed to get out ahead. The Lions generally are front runners anyway with the way they want to run the football and not get in obvious passing situations. They needed to get ahead. That first drive when the Chiefs stopped them down on the goal line and the penalty with the Jared Goff touchdown reception, held the Lions to 3 points there. The Amon-Ra St. Brown drop on a later drive on 4th down. It just didn't feel like the Lions ever got out ahead enough. And when you look at their offense in this game, they only got to run one drive with a lead in this game, 8 plays, and it was the drive with the Amon-Ra St. Brown drop on 4th down that then the Chiefs turned around and took the lead again and never gave it up from there. Yeah. It felt like the Lions were going to have a lead throughout this entire game, wire to wire, and control it with their offensive line and with the running game. And that's not to say Jared Goff played poorly. Obviously, you see the 80 grade, and he was solid throughout this game. But if you're the Chiefs, if you're Steve Spagnuolo, you go, fine, I will allow that. If Jared Goff comes out here and beats me with his arm in the drop back situations against my secondary, then we deserve to lose this football game. But we cannot get beat on the ground. It looked like for the first drive or two that the Chiefs were going to get beat on the ground, and they still have some flaws up front, I think, in run defense. But you look at the way this then went. The Chiefs went into halftime with a lead. They came out and scored on their first drive, and at that point, it's 20-10, and you got the Lions out of their game script. They only ran the ball 4 times the entire second half for 6 yards. That's not what the Lions want to do. So, look, they got off to a good start when you look at the way they were operating their offense. But again, I think when you play this Chiefs team, and the Chiefs, all 3 of their losses, let's be honest now, they have had chances to win all 3 of those games. You go back to the first game against the Chargers, Justin Herbert was just great in clutch situations. The Eagles, if Travis Kelce catches that ball on the goal line, you might have a whole different ball game. The Jaguars, they blew the game in the last minute. I mean, I think You just have to still, despite the record and despite some of the difficulties they have, you have to execute at the absolute highest level to beat this team, especially in Kansas City.
Kansas City,
in the biggest moments, especially early in this game, those 2 fourth downs were big. The Lions just couldn't do that, and they didn't have the room for error. And against this team, and really in any Lions game, they just don't want to be behind 2 scores and dropping back and throwing the football. Because Jared Goff, he is good. Is he a top 10 to 12 quarterback? Yes. But if you're an opposing defense, you would still rather make Jared Goff beat you than have this Lions team be really be a balanced offensive unit with the run game and dominating up front like they did against Baltimore.
Yeah, I think the boss man put it great when he said that they just failed to keep serve. Because to be honest with you, these are 2 Super Bowl caliber teams. I know people want to look at the Chiefs' record at 3-3 and over the last couple of weeks say like, oh, the Chiefs dynasty is done. The fact of the matter is, this is not the year where you're going to be able to proclaim that it is done. They're still going to be in the running, and maybe they won't be the 1 seed. Heck, I don't even know if they're going to win their own division, but they're going to be a player down the stretch. This Chiefs team is not going to go away as long as Patrick Mahomes is healthy, and we know that that's going to be the case, especially, like you said, anytime that they are playing in Arrowhead. So, to me, this game simply came down to the fact that the Chiefs executed, in my opinion, on the third, but specifically the 4th down situations, and then in the red zone, a little bit better than Detroit. They play this game 10 times. Detroit could win 5. Kansas City wins 5. That is just how these 2 teams are. But in this game specifically, the Chiefs went forward on 4th down 3 times. They converted on 2 of them. One of them was the touchdown to Xavier Worthy. Another one was, I believe, the very following drive. And then the third attempt was actually on that same drive, and they didn't get it, and they ended up turning the ball over on downs. So one of them was a conversion to get them within scoring range, and then the other one was the turnover on downs. But I think the one that's most important is they went forward on 4th down, and they scored the touchdown. On the other side of things, the Detroit Lions, they went forward on 4th down twice, over 2. Now, one of them was a situation where they turned the ball over to the Kansas City Chiefs right around midfield, and guess what the Chiefs did after they got that ball? They scored a touchdown. So on 2 4th down situations in this game, the Chiefs go forward on 4th down and they score a touchdown, like to Xavier Worthy in the corner of the end zone. And on another one, the Lions not only not convert and give the ball up, but the Chiefs then go and then take the ball from exactly where it was at that point and score a touchdown with it. That's just a major difference maker in this game. You look at the red zone as well. The Chiefs were in the red zone 6 times in this game, and they scored 4. They scored 4 touchdowns. That's the margin right there. And then I think you could throw in the fact that the Chiefs didn't have any penalties in this game. It's a bang-bang type of a game. Probably could have been some calls on the Chiefs. But, I mean, it is what it is. I thought that whether it's 0 penalties or like 2 or 3, you're still playing an incredibly clean brand of football. So the Chiefs played a very clean game. They executed in the red zone, and they executed on 4th down. When you have 2 extremely evenly matched teams, that's the difference right there. And that's why I say if they play this game 10 times, let's say on a neutral field, could very well be 5-5. That's just the way that these teams are. And what happened to play out on Sunday night is the Chiefs executed in those areas that matter the most for EPA per play, for obviously, adjacent to that, putting points on the scoreboard, continuing drives, getting into field goal range, getting into scoring range, whatever that was. The Chiefs were simply better last night. That doesn't mean that the Detroit Lions are a terrible football team, but it does mean that, in my opinion, is why the Chiefs won.
Yeah, I think the lesson, again, when you're playing against the Lions is if you can get out ahead of them, you feel like you're at an advantage making Jared Goff be the one to beat you. I think for the Chiefs, same old story. If you have Patrick Mahomes and you have Andy Reid, you're going to be the masters of situational football, and that's what they are, and they execute so well on offense now that Xavier Worthy's healthy. And now we have to remember, with an offensive line that's a work in progress, with a defensive line that's a work in progress, now we're getting into Week 7, and that means for the first time since Week 4 of last year, we're going to see Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice on the field together, along with Travis Kelce and everybody else. Like Juju Smith-Schuster was good in this game. Hollywood Brown made plays. All of a sudden, with Rashee Rice, who's really now your best receiver, back on the field, you've got a massive stable of weapons to work with, and the pass protection has been getting better week to week for this Chiefs offense. There's a chance they could explode and get really hot in the next few weeks offensively, and then the last bit is then they just have to figure out some sort of consistent presence, especially in run defense on the defensive line, but their linebackers are good. The secondary's been fantastic after the first week. This Chiefs team, despite being 3-3, has a chance to really put it together and get hot now the next few weeks. This was a big win for them, and it was really maybe, you look at this game and you look at the Ravens game, even last week's game against Jacksonville, This offense is starting to look like what we're more used to seeing from Kansas City. Again, that's the 3 games where Xavier Worthy's been back from injury. That's had a big effect. But now that you get Rashee Rice back this coming week against Vegas, they're going to be a real problem moving forward.
Yeah, Victor in the chat is pointing this out correctly. The Chiefs had a .50 EPA per play on 3rd and 4th downs, and the Lions had a negative 0.56 EPA per play on 3rd and 4th down. To me, that is the stat that told the story in this game. I thought the tight end passing game, really from both teams, was really impressive in this one. Sam Laporta was excellent for the Detroit Lions and running a lot of what their offense needed to get through him. He was their leading receiver in this game. It was a game where Amon-Ra St. Brown got a lot of targets, and he had a good amount of catches, but it was a quiet day from him from just an overall output. And so they needed to lean on somebody else a little bit, and Sam Laporta was right there. And on the opposite side, it was an excellent game from Travis Kelce. Now, it's not like Travis Kelce dipped into the fountain of youth and he looked like he was, 5-7 years ago, whatever it was. He was still limited athletically, but the ability to find the space and the chemistry between him and Patrick Mahomes is excellent in this game. And that's why I think that both of these tight ends played at such a high level. And these are 2 great examples of sort of, in my opinion, where the game is going. And emphasizing tight ends being on the field, emphasizing them in the passing game, emphasizing 12 personnel and heavier personnel. When you have these tight ends that you can lean on offense, sometimes they really are your greatest security blanket when maybe the more explosive, the flashier plays around you aren't working that day. You know that you can lean on these guys. Both of these teams were able to do that. And in my opinion, from a close contested game, that's why they were able to operate as well as they could, because it felt like each team was sort of taking away the others. I mean, what was Xavier Worthy's stats in that game? I know he had the touchdown, but he was very limited in overall output. And when you look at the Lions as well, not the biggest day in the world from Jameson Williams, and like I said with Amon-Ra St. Brown as well, Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield in the passing game, normally a very reliable and explosive guy, and he was also limited. So what happens when those flashy options aren't there? You got to lean into the tight ends, and you got to have those guys that allow you to do that. Both of these teams do, and to me, that was why they were remaining impressive when those flashier options were not there for them last night.
And it's interesting for the Chiefs because everything for years and years has been, okay, everything works from Travis Kelce and then the football gets spread from there. Right now it's a little more even, especially with Rashee Rice on the way back this week, where you've got so many, look how many different weapons the Chiefs are dealing with now, and they're all healthy, right? You've got Rice, Worthy, Hollywood Brown. You've got Tyquan Thornton's been really good for them, right? Smith-Schuster. I mean, you've got 5 receivers. You've got 2 tight ends in Kelce and Noah Gray who are reliable. You got 3 backs who have touched the field, Hunt and Pacheco, and even Brashard Smith has been getting action lately. Think about it. That's 10 different guys that Mahomes can go, yeah, I can rely on him. He's caught passes this year. We can do that. And when you have that, and it's really, I think Rice is going to get the greater target share because at this point he is the most talented one. And last year he was going crazy before he got hurt. But you have this thing where you really can't double anybody in this offense right now, especially when Rice gets back. And now that Kelce, look, he's not a guy that you necessarily have to double team anymore, but he's still smart and crafty enough to work through defenses and find his way open 4 or 5 times a game.
Most impressive and most disappointing.
On the defensive side for the Chiefs, I mean, there's so many guys you could go with in an effort like this, but give me Shamari Connor, the safety. The fact that he's gone from 4th-round pick to solid part-time player to now just such a stable force in this defense. 11 tackles in this game, 3 stops, a forced fumble that went out of bounds in the 4th quarter on St. Brown, 70 run defense grade, 74 coverage grade. He gets in all different alignments, and I think, one of the low-key concerns in the secondary was how do you replace the veteran leadership of Justin Reed, but at the safety position, Shamari Connor and Brian Cook have done an excellent job back there, and we know the Chiefs are, as always, are loaded with cornerbacks, but I think Shamari Connor, just like kind of Leo Chenal has at linebacker, I thought he had a really good game too, in different alignments and a tough assignment against this Detroit offensive line. You've got guys who we're more used to seeing in their first couple years. Okay, they're young players, they get 25 snaps a game and they produce. Now these are starting players that can play 50, 60 snaps a game and be really productive and be difference makers on a more consistent basis. Connor's becoming one of those guys at safety.
So my most disappointing in this game, Jack Campbell, the linebacker from the Lions, he just struggled overall. I give credit to what the Chiefs were able to do in the tight end passing game, specifically with Travis Kelce. But Jack Campbell, and a little bit of Alex Anzalone, but more Jack Campbell was sort of the one who was around the area or needed to play a little bit tighter in coverage against Travis Kelce. And Kelce, I just think the savviness got the better of Jack Campbell in this one. So the coverage grade was a little bit lower, 40.3 coverage grade. So he was my most disappointing in a game that really didn't have a ton of most disappointing. Was it a 50-45, sort of like an incredible offensive output game? No, I think that it was a little bit slower than maybe people were hoping when they were just watching it as a casual viewer. But I think a lot of players played pretty solid in this game, and Campbell's one of the ones where you look at it and you just go, didn't have his best game out there. So he was my most disappointing.
No, and he's been fantastic all year, so I think he's going to bounce back. And it's a hard assignment, right? I mean, Travis Kelce might be a little older, but that's still a hard assignment. I think just the Lions in general, the coverage in general, 47.9 coverage grade, but with also the caveat that they got to get healthy, right? I mean, they had out there, they had Amik Robertson. They've got Rock Yassin playing out there at corner. They've got guys who really they don't plan on starting at corner long term. Plus, Kirby Joseph is banged up, right? I mean, so I think the secondary, it just sounds like last year all over again. If and whenever the Lions can get 100% healthy on defense, they're going to be really good. But they're struggling on the outside right now. It's something they're going to have to put up with for a few weeks.